You are listening to the Cattle Call podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of Zentech Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The Cattle Call podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cattle Call podcast with Jim and Rocco from Zentech Consultants. I am the always charming and gregarious Jim.
And I am Rocco. How you doing, Jim?
Rocco. That's all you got from me. You know, Rocco, you know what? I ever tell you, there are two kinds of people in this world? The first are like me. They're people who can extrapolate from incomplete information.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I'm saying. Can you add in the rest, man? You make this so hard for me on the intros. It's all good.
You know I do it on purpose.
I know you do. It wouldn't be funny otherwise. Just leave me hanging out there. You see what I got to deal with, folks? This is my partner. I deal with this on a daily basis. This is why his wife beats him all the time, and he deserves it. Of course, I do pay her a little bit extra on the side just to make sure she gets in an extra smack now and again for me. All right. So what are we talking about today? Oh, we're talking today about estimating for construction with PDFs, right, which is a real important topic. I'm a big fan of this. It ties into a lot of what we do here at Zentech. So I wanted to get into, Rocco, the kind of the idea of estimating today for the construction world in particular. There's a big difference, I think, between what we'll call design estimating and estimating a project for actual construction. And really once you get into the construction estimating, there are a bunch of important levels of estimating that have really different processes and requirements, right? And they can change the basic approach to how you're going to handle your takeoffs. Listen, for today, I don't want to get into the design estimating because it's a vague topic, right? For the architects and the engineers, they tend to use just general square footage pricing for just budgetary concerns, and they're okay with like close enough types of numbers. But once you get past that stage, right, or even if you're still in the design phase, but maybe you're involved in like a design build type of project, and you're like the CM at risk, then you need to have a completely different approach. You need to start looking at the individual systems and processes within a job, and not necessarily in minute detail, but in enough detail to build rational pricing. And if you go beyond that, right, if you're a trade-specific contractor like a plumber, an HVAC installer, right, guys who are doing real heavy detailed installation, then you get into more of what we call assembly level estimating, right, which is getting into those detailed component prices, installation costs, labor time, and so on. So while that's a wide spread of work, right, that we're talking about and getting into, they all seem to have one common feature in today's marketplace, and that is the PDF file, right, the portable document format that we all use every day. So I wanted to look at the PDF and the estimating tools and processes that you can use to work with those for your construction jobs. So, Rocco, let's start with PDFs in general, right? Which software systems are the big players in the PDF market, and which ones do we commonly see used for estimating?
Yeah, it's really Adobe and Bluebeam, and I'd probably say that the better majority of folks are using Bluebeam. I mean, Adobe's a great product, but the thing about Bluebeam, and we'll get into it a little bit more depth, is that it's an industry-specific tool. It's purpose-built for folks within architecture, engineering, and construction.
Right. Yeah, and I've always said, Adobe, I always tend to refer to it more as like a business-focused software. It's for general businesses, right? It's great for like attorneys and accountants and guys like that. It does wonderful stuff, but it really is not.
Yeah, but I run into it enough, where folks are still using Adobe even within our industry, and then you get folks who are who shift from company to company, and who are used to using Bluebeam, and now they're told that they have to use Adobe, and they're like, oh God, I can't do this,
Yeah, I mean, Adobe definitely has some some measurement and takeoff capabilities to it, but yeah, I've always felt that they just don't seem to have everything we need on the construction side. So
Right.
All right, so let's talk about the general contractors, all right, and the estimating requirements and how those apply to the PDF world. Listen, for starters, 9 out of 10 times a PDF is the only viable document that the GC is ever going to see. Look, while it's possible you guys can go out and you can ask the architect or the engineer for the CAD files or the BIM files on a project, particularly if you're doing an integrated project delivery, kind of one of the IPD methods. If you're doing that kind of job, right, the software to access those files, it's crazy expensive, right? You're looking at investing thousands of dollars for every seat of software to access BIM models and detailed CAD drawings and so on. Not only that, but I think you also need to realize that you need a good bit of training and experience to be able to pull out even the most basic information from one of those design files. And that's just time and money that most general contractors can't spare. Instead, they usually wind up getting just a standard PDF file, and they open it up in their software of choice, right? And like Rocco said, Bluebeam is kind of the premier system in the construction world for PDFs, and it has the distinct benefit of being designed from the ground up, specifically for quantity takeoff on the construction end. All right, so tools like Bluebeam Review, they let you can do things like item counts and measure linear footages and get areas and volumes and so on, right on the PDF using just out-of-the-box tools. Right? You can scale your PDF so that the measurements are accurate, and you can adjust display properties for every item that you draw so they're easily identifiable and labeled the way that you need them to be labeled. And I think the important thing with a quantity takeoff system for construction is that it needs to work natively with that PDF. So there are a number of systems out there which will open the PDFs, but then they convert them. You use estimating systems that will convert them to a JPEG or a TIFF image inside the system. And that's kind of an extra conversion step, which I have found in just practical experience, it can introduce errors into the process and take more times, and things get dropped when they're converted from a PDF to an image. So I'm not really a big fan of it. I've just had too many issues. Particularly, they seem to really have a problem when you're doing like updates and revisions. You're getting a new revision in, and it's doing that PDF to TIFF conversion. So I generally say, stick with estimating tools that work with the PDF that you're getting from your designers. PlanSwift, right, is a good example of that type of system that does the conversion. It does some really great stuff, and it is a great program, but I am not a fan of the fact that they work off of image files instead of PDFs. So Rocco, what kind of feedback do you get from clients in terms of systems like Bluebeam versus PlanSwift or on-screen takeoff? Do they notice a difference between working with PDFs and working with image files?
Yeah, I think they do notice a difference. I mean, a lot of them say that Bluebeam is a lot easier to work with in general. I mean, we definitely work with a lot of folks that use PlanSwift and OST, but they just seem to like the flexibility and ease that comes with Bluebeam.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it doesn't matter what software you're working and what you're doing, right? Every step you can eliminate in the process is time and money back in your pocket. So, one other thing that I do want to point out, is that while you're dealing with general PDF takeoff systems like Review, they're, like Rocco said, easier to work with, but they do actually have limitations as well. In particular, right? I tell clients all the time that there's one area of estimating where Bluebeam actually falls short of a system like PlanSwift, right? And that is in that assembly level estimating. If you're looking to just be able to go in and drop a single symbol on a window, for example, and you want to know how many jambs, how many sashes, how many screws, how much glazing, right? What size glazing, what thickness, what's the weather stripping, how much do I need for each window, and kind of get those sub-assembly components. Then a system like PlanSwift, which is a dedicated estimating system, is the way to go. It does it better than review. Review is more generic than that. It'll tell you how many of that type of window you have, and you can even build and put in custom properties for like make and model and manufacturer and costs and so on if you need it, right? But if you're looking to do that sub-component level estimating, it's not something that a system like Bluebeam does well. It's meant for more generalized use for general contractors and overall quantity takeoffs. So Rocco, let me ask you, how do our clients respond when we tell them that they should go to another software system than the one that we rep, and when they ask about the assembly level stuff?
Yeah, the bottom line is we're honest and upfront with our clients. I mean, we tell you like it is, and I think most people are fine with hearing the truth. But ultimately, we don't always talk to the people that are signing the check. So it ultimately comes down to the money. But they're definitely open to our suggestions. I mean, we're only telling them the truth.
That's fair. But don't let Rocco kid you, folks. He gets annoyed at me when I bash the systems that we're selling in front of our clients. He yells at me. He's mean like that.
Well, you got to be honest. And,
yeah, you do.
And
you're absolutely right. That's kind of our business model has always been, no BS. We're just going to tell people what it is, and sometimes we're not the right answer for you. You should look elsewhere. So, all right. So
let me just ask you, Jim. So we work with a lot of folks that are using, Bluebeam and Procore, right? There's a lot of Procore users. So how does Procore handle the PDF files that we're talking about?
Yeah, that's one of the nice things about dealing with like Procore. While it's not really designed as like a takeoff system, there are some limited capabilities in there. But what it will do is it does let you upload all the PDFs, right? So that they're available to everybody, so the quantity takeoffs and so on, and you can actually launch the PDFs either in the Procore viewer, so you can just look at them, but you can also just use it as like almost like a file explorer. You can load up into the Procore documents folders, and you can just launch the PDFs there and go into Bluebeam and do all the quantity takeoffs there. So
yeah, that's nice.
The integration is pretty good, no doubt.
Yeah.
So, all right, so let's take a quick break to hear from today's sponsor. And when we get back, I want to get into ways that we can customize and configure these PDF-based takeoff systems to make life a little bit easier. So we'll be back in just a minute, folks, with more of the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, Rocco, so we are sponsoring ourselves yet again today. What is it we want to talk about?
We're going to talk about me today, Jim.
No one wants to talk about you. Not even you.
Oh, fine. Let's talk about Zentek Tech Blocks.
Awesome. I like Zentek Tech Blocks. Zentek Tech Blocks are prepaid support hours that let you call on Zentek's experienced technical staff to address all your support questions, problems, help you with workflows and standards, really anything you need on the technology side. We're here to provide the support you need so that your most talented people aren't being dragged into helping everybody else in your company instead of working on the billable jobs that you need them focused on. All right. So Zentek Tech Blocks are available in multiple sizes. We sell them in 5-hour, 10-hour, 20-hour, and 40-hour prepaid support blocks. And if you're interested and you need that sort of help, Rocco, how do they reach out to us?
Yeah, hit up our website, zentechconsultants.net. Give us a ring, 866-824-4459. Or even drop us an email, sales@zentechconsultants.net.
All right, Zentek Tech Blocks, the vital support that your people need exactly at the moment that they need it. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cattle Call Podcast. We're talking today about PDF takeoff systems for the construction industry. And I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about configuring these systems to your specific needs. Listen, most of us in the construction world are looking for general measurements, right? We're looking for linear foot, square footage, counts, and so on. That we can just apply a general price tag for. And the key here is to create reusable tools that can be accessed by everybody in your firm so that you can get consistent, repeatable results on every one of your jobs. Right? And in other words, right, if I'm taking off linear footage of ducts and I make them all green with dashed lines, that's fine. Right? But if Rocco is doing the same thing on another job and he uses hot pink with purple polka dots, right?
Why do you always assume that I like pink and purple?
I'm just saying. You just seem like a pink and purple kind of guy to me, Rocco.
You know, that's my favorite color is red. Just so you know.
All right, so it's going to be red with green polka dots. How's that?
There you go.
It's a Christmas takeoff. But yeah, I mean, you think about that though, right? It just makes it impossible for you and I to go in and work on each other's projects, right? And it's confusing to anybody else who's opening up our PDFs because you got two jobs showing two completely different things visually that are supposed to be the same thing, right? So that causes problems and confusion and slowdowns. And it's not just that, right? But a standardized tool set means that people don't have to modify every single line item on your takeoff. Meaning that every time I do my linear takeoff for my ductwork, I don't have to change the color in the line for every single one of those. Because you can have tens of thousands of line items on a job. You do not want to spend time modifying the display properties and the labeling properties for 10,000 items, right? When you configure a preset tool set, it's just a point and click type of function, right? And then you have consistent results. You just pick the tool, run it, pick the tool, run it, right? And that type of configuration is usually achievable by anybody in your company who has a solid understanding of the program that you're working with. It doesn't usually require coding or super advanced skills. I think that the issue that you will probably run up against is really just one of time. Right? You got to kind of answer the question: can you spare one of your better people, right, to spend a few weeks building and configuring the tools you need to have all the options in the way that you need them done? So that's a question you're all going to have to ask yourselves and answer for yourselves. So. But let me ask you, Rocco, right? We do a ton of configuration for Bluebeam, right? We build tools and custom properties for a lot of the clients who don't have the time or the internal resources to do it themselves. How much of an impact is company size with those type of jobs? Do you find that we work mainly for larger firms who can spare the people and the time? Or do we do work for small companies more often because they're the ones who need that time saving more? Where do we see that?
No, I mean, we're certainly happy to work with anyone, but we do find that it's usually the larger firms that have the larger budgets to be able to, to have us dig deeper and really build sophisticated tool sets. Look, this work it's stuff like you say that folks could really do on their own, but it's a matter of time, right? So do you have the time to do it on your own, or are you going to pay somebody to do it? And that's really where we see most of the larger firms are the ones that spend a bulk of the money to do this kind of work.
Yeah. And I kind of get it, but I also don't necessarily agree with it. I think that, if you're a small company and you're looking and you're thinking about this, that, what we're talking about here today, I know that, when you come up and you come to a company like Zentech, and it doesn't have to be Zentech, it can be any consultant that you're working with, and they give you a price, and you go, I don't want to spend that much money, right? But here's the thing, right? Maybe it's $2,000 or $3,000 or whatever it might be for your small little job, and to you that's a big chunk of money. But here's the thing: you don't want to lay out to $2,000, but you understand that you're probably losing $1,500 to $3,000 of time on every project you work on. These are the kind of things that, to me, they pay for themselves really quickly. And I really wish a lot more smaller companies would kind of think that way, get a little bit of a longer view. Just my 2 cents. So, another way I think that we can configure, the PDF estimating systems like Bluebeam and some of the others, it's by buying and installing kind of pre-made quantity takeoff tool sets, right? So what I mean by that, these are kind of pre-packaged tools that have generalized properties and sizes and so on that will fit most users in any specific field. So what I mean, they're usually built on a trade or industry spec, right? And they can be installed, right inside your takeoff system. And I know there are a number of those out there for. There's a lot of them for PlanSwift that are available. You can do this through the PlanSwift store. And we do a full line of what we call our Zen estimate tools for Bluebeam here in-house. And this type of product can be really powerful and very easy to get installed and up to speed on. It's usually just, you run an executable file on the local machine, and then, your users have immediate access to the takeoff tools that they need, right? The key thing that I think you need to understand here is that, while, folks like us, here at Zentech, we try our best to get the best functionality in place that we can on these prepackaged systems. Every company works differently, right? So a prepackaged tool is probably not going to get you exactly what you need, but it's probably going to get you 90% of the way there. And then, like I said, beyond that, right, we can work with clients to customize, at least on our end. I don't know if they do this on the PlanSwift side, but, we're willing to customize our prepackaged tool sets to your needs. So if it's close but you need a tweak, we can do that. For a fee, of course. I mean, after all, I'm a big old fat guy and I am really fond of eating, so I like to get paid so I can afford my lunches. So Rocco.
Wow.
What, I'm not allowed that? Well, actually, I'm not. Rocco never lets me have lunch. He keeps me
pretty
working
mean.
through lunch.
That's pretty mean to say of yourself.
Listen, my pants say that of me every time I try to buckle them and they don't want to go, hey! Started looking like the Pillsbury Doughboy in a pair of jeans. It's not good, man. All the sitting home with the COVID is not helping me. So, all right. So, Rocco, where do you see, getting back on topic here and away from my fatness, where do you see the most response from our clients? I mean, do we get better traction with the prepackaged tool sets or the custom tools? And do people explain to you when they make that choice why they go one way versus the other?
It all depends on your need and your budget. And, unfortunately, it does come down to the size of the firm a lot of times, even though, like you said, it really shouldn't. But, a lot of people they love our tools, our Zenith Smith Steel tools, for example. I mean, they find that they save a huge amount of time, and they like them as they're built, as we built them. So it all depends on your situation. Everybody's unique in their own way.
Okay, fair enough. So I think at the end of it, right, it comes down to a question of convenience and familiarity when you're making these decisions. I think, over 80% of the construction companies out there already use Bluebeam for markup, collaboration, simple document sharing. So I think, taking the skills that your people already have and adding the estimating component right on top of the PDF system that they already use, and even if it's not Bluebeam, I know I keep saying Bluebeam, but whatever system you're using for the PDF takeoff, I think adding estimating on top of that is kind of a no-brainer, right? The fact that you can add features that are specific to your needs, right? Like in Bluebeam, right? We can add formulas and drop-down lists and text fields and cost adjustments and 100 other items, right, that can save your people a lot of cash and time on every project that they touch. Like I was saying before, I really think it's a sort of investment that pays for itself very, very quickly, and it increases the profit margins substantially on every project you work for years to come. This field of developing configured estimating tools for our clients has actually become a really big part of the work that we do here at Zentech over the last few years. And honestly, it just seems to be growing faster and faster with no sign of let up in sight. If you guys who are listening, if you haven't taken the time to look into these types of estimating tools, then you really need to take a few minutes to look around the web, right? See what's out there. And I'm not saying that you need to call Rocco and I, though, of course you should, because we're the best at this. But, it's not something I think that anybody in the construction world can afford to ignore. I don't think it matters if you're a one-man shop doing, installation, or if you're a multinational GC who's running billions of dollars in revenue projects each year. I think you need this type of estimating and takeoff functionality in your users' hands. Okay? So that's my thought, and I'm ready to leave it there for today. Unless, Rocco, anything else you want to throw in there?
No, I am good to go.
Rocco is good to go. So we're going to get out of here, folks, and we will catch you next time on the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, everybody. Today's Cattle Call was brought to you courtesy of Zentech Consultants. That's Rocco and I. Zentech Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. Zentech strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to Zentech?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentechconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentechconsultants.net, or you can even call us 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from you all.